Okay, we are in Excel, skill 4.18 and 4.19. We're going to be working with pivot tables and pivot charts. This will be the last video for this week. Hopefully it went well for you. To be totally honest, I rarely use pivot tables. I don't know that I ever even have used a pivot table in my regular day-to-day working with Excel. So I'll just show you some basics with it, and then you can go further with that if you want in your own research and your own studying. Basically, to create a pivot table, click anywhere inside a table that you've already created. Go to the Insert tab, and right here is the Pivot Table button. You can select Pivot Table, or you could just click the main part of the button, and it says, okay, select the table. It's already got the table. If you're inside a table you've created, you can select a different table if you have more than one table created. You can put that pivot table on the worksheet, an existing worksheet, or you can create a new worksheet. We'll just create a new one here. Hit OK, and here we are. We have a pivot table. There's nothing in it yet, so it just shows you this little help image for it. Now, what a pivot table does is it summarizes data for you from a table you already have. So we saw there, the owners, the company, the owner for the company, the quarter data, and the total data. What I can do is, if I want to get a summary of the owner data, I can come over here and click Owner, and it fills in all the different owners that I have. And then what I can do is I can fill in those quarters and that total, and you can see now I have a sum. By default, it'll use sum in the summary. I have a sum of all the earnings for those owners, whether or not they have one company or a dozen companies. So that's kind of the basics of a pivot table. It gives you summary data based on values in your table, and you can kind of specify what each of those is. So you can see here, Johnson, made $136,000. I think Johnson had only one company, but Smith made $124,000. I think he had multiple companies adding into that. So it does that summary for you. The next thing I just want to show you is the pivot chart. So if I select anywhere inside my pivot table, and on the pivot table tools, contextual tabs that will come up, I select options and click on pivot chart, and it'll create a chart basically like the charts that we created at the beginning of this chapter, or maybe it was last chapter. So you can select the type of chart you want, hit OK, and it'll populate that in there. So you can see, and it works just like any other chart would work. I can switch the rows and columns and see the data. One thing about a pivot chart, though, is I have the option to filter it just like I would a table. So if I only want to see Smith and Johnson on this chart, I can filter that out, and there you can see Smith and Johnson pretty comparable. So that's your basics of a pivot table and pivot charts. Your last code word for this chapter for this week is going to be shirt, S-H-I-R-T.